Okay.
Whenever you're ready to call for.
Okay. Everybody ready? Want to talk about some microaggressions? Yes? 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 You see me? Oh, John, now you're just going to see me all the time, aren't you?
All the time.
Okay. So let's establish some ground rules. Always ground rules in the place. Use I statements. You're not speaking for anybody else but yourself. Tell your own story and let others tell theirs. Oops and ouch. Oops. I said, did, showed, whatever. I did something that may have been harmful to others. Oops. Ouch. Someone else did something that is harmful to me. Lean in, lean out. If you're the kind of person who talks all the time, lean out. Let somebody else be heard. If you're the kind of person who never speaks and sits very quietly, lean in and participate. Examine your own discomfort. If something makes you feel a little something, ask yourself, why am I feeling that? It's okay to pass. If we're talking about questions or going around and you feel like you can't say anything, and it's okay to pass. Remember, no one gets it right every time. None of us does, because none of us is perfect. And the world is a work in progress, so surely we all must be. It's our first video.
I guess I'm still learning how to deal with microaggressions, with mental illness and being a black woman. It's something that I've always had.
The majority of the microaggressions that I've experienced in my life are related to being half Japanese. People often say that I am pretty for a black girl, for example.
Oh my God, Kiana, like I'm blacker than you are, Kiana. Like, oh my God.
From your name, I thought you'd be a little Jap walking off the streets.
Oh, you're super pretty for a black girl.
You know, a lot of people, they want to like touch hair. It's one of them actions where they're just like, oh, can I see your hair? And they just go and like pet it. When you pet something, you know, you pet animals. You know, like we're humans, we're not animals.
The biggest one I get all the time is, what are you? What are you? And then they rattle off, because I'm so ethnically ambiguous, they rattle off this list of like, oh, are you Mexican? Native American? Puerto Rican? Yada, 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 yada. Why do you need to know that? I don't think it necessarily changes my intelligence or anything like that. It's just that you can put me in a nice little box.
It's disheartening to have people tell you you don't look like a particular group of people that you self-identify with. It's hard, because I do self-identify as a Hispanic. I was born in Chile in South America. I feel like, how Chilean can I get? You know, I don't know what else to do.
But then I try to model correct behavior. So if somebody says, where are you from? I will say, well, I grew up in California, but if you're talking about my ancestry, I'm Korean.
I have definitely experienced microaggressions the way that I look, whether it's like body type especially. I think that's maybe one of the hardest.
I think it's a reality of privilege that you don't have to notice microaggressions.
What gives me a sense of agency to address microaggressions is honestly the identities that I have that are privileged.
I think sometimes when a microaggression is done to me or others, I'm pretty quick to respond back or to clap back. But I often think sometimes that's hard to do.
There are those times where you want to educate that person, and there are those times where you just want to run away, but then there's some times where you just have to have a good laugh.
I wasn't strong enough to say, like, what the heck? Like, what was, like, why did you say that? I wasn't strong enough to say that, and so I just had to, like, internalize my hurt and then kind of move on.
A lot of times I don't think that people are trying to, what would you say, send microaggressions on purpose. I think that a lot of times microaggressions are, you're just not educated on what what needs to be said or what you should say.
I think a lot of times people really just don't understand the impact of their words or their comments or something that has become a colloquialism in regularly exchanged conversation in our culture. A lot of times microaggressions are unconscious and people don't realize the impact, and a lot of times that wasn't their intent at all.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter about intent because it matters about how it impacted you.
Trying to help students to understand that we all have biases. They may not necessarily be, you may not necessarily know them, know exactly what they are, but I think we all have them. And once we can learn to understand those biases, I think that would be an important first step to understanding other people and their life experiences.
When I get challenged, it's hard and I feel embarrassed, and I'm somebody who thinks about that a lot, but I also want to honor the fact that I was the one who made that impact on the student. So you think about intent versus impact.
I think it's hugely important not to let that microaggression just pass by without anything being said. Because being silent is, to me, as an educator, stating that you agree with that particular microaggression.
So what are microaggressions? Microaggressions are the everyday verbal, nonverbal, and environmental slights, snubs, or insults, whether intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative messages to target persons based solely upon their marginalized group identity. Notice that this is really clear, that it's whether you intended it or not. I hear people say, assume good intentions. Sure. Impact is real, though. So this is what we're talking about when we talk about microaggressions. Notice they are verbal, nonverbal, and environmental. We're going to break this down. So comments or behaviors. You don't have to say anything. Sometimes it's in what you do. They're verbal or nonverbal, intentional or unintentional, and they can be environmental. So, it's that pattern of being overlooked, under-respected, and devalued. Those subtle insults, verbal, nonverbal, and or visual, directed, often automatically or unconsciously. Brief everyday exchanges that send denigrating messages to someone because they belong to a minority group. And maybe it's not even a minority group. As you'll see, microaggressions can be based on age, familial status. They can be based on all kinds of things. Race, ethnicity, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, physical ability, class. That's the big one that I see most here at River Road, class. Education, neural ability, political affiliation, religion, age, and citizenship. Any of these things can be the topic of a microaggression. So you may hear these two other terms that I want to throw in here for you. You may hear about a microassault. Microassaults are explicit derogations characterized primarily by verbal or nonverbal attack meant to hurt the victim through name-calling, avoidant behavior, or purposeful discriminatory action. Okay, so this is when you really meant it. It's intentional. They are at the individual level, they're conscious and deliberate, and they're expressed in limited private situations. So this is not the The situation that Jessica was talking about in her reading where someone got up and made this comment about being in an all-white room. This would be if I went to Barb and said something really specific, well, you know we're all white in here, right? Calling someone colored, the R word, or crippled. Deliberately serving a white person before a person of color. Displaying a swastika, or maybe your Confederate flag, or it could even be your MAGA hat. That tells me right away, okay, what you think of me. Micro insults are communications that convey rudeness and insensitivity and demean a person's racial heritage or their identity. So these are the subtle snubs that clearly convey a hidden insulting message to the recipient. Here's one based on gender. All the men gathered and talked and the woman is excluded from the conversation. Because, you know, we men know how to talk about business. You women don't, right? Micro insult. Very subtle, but it's there. So, the group of men deliberately excluding the female coworker from a conversation. Asking a person of color, how did you get your job? Avoiding eye contact when speaking to a person in a wheelchair. You see this one a lot. And micro invalidations, communications that exclude, negate, or nullify the psychological thoughts or feelings or experiential reality of a person. They're often unconscious, but they're a denial of another person's experience, because of course you know better, right? I don't see color. That one gets me. Personally, that's on my all-time favorite list. If you look at me and you can't see black, then something's wrong. If you don't see my blackness, you don't see all of me. And if you don't see all of me, you see none of me. So I don't see color, not helpful. We're all the same. No, we're not. You speak good English. Many of my friends for whom English is not their first language have heard that. And I guess you're supposed to take it as a compliment. So there are different themes that come up with race and ethnicity microaggressions. You're an alien in your own land. You're not from here, are you? Right? We talked about that one. Ascription of intelligence. Oh my gosh, you have a college degree? And a master's degree? And another master's degree? Oh wow. Like I couldn't. This notion of color blindness. Criminality, assuming that every young black person or brown person on the street you see in a hoodie is a thug and is a drug dealer. Denial of individual racism, saying that you can't be racist because I have a black son-in-law. Okay, and? The myth of meritocracy. Well, and this is one that you see often with Asian Americans. Well, you're smarter than everybody else, right? You earned your way through this because you all study so hard. Pathologizing cultural values. Different cultures have different values, and suggesting that one is bad because it's different from yours is a microaggression. So we had this conversation when we were talking about plant-based food for the retreat, right? Where, yes, we are all about the green sanctuary, we are all about climate justice, and somewhere in the mix we forgot about those cultures where meat is a very, very important part of their culture. And it was, well, that's not right, because we're a green sanctuary. Well, it doesn't work that way. Kind of felt like a microaggression to me. Second-class citizenship. That one I don't even need to explain. And environmental microaggressions. When you walk into a place and they tell you that you are welcome, but every picture on the wall is of an old white guy minister, odds are that is not going to make me feel welcome as a black woman minister. If you walk in and everything you see is about not you, it's really hard to feel like you belong. So you hope that you would see a variety of things in a place, but it doesn't work that way. There's a congregation that I've been working with where they have an interesting dilemma going on right now. They feel that everything is LGBTQ focused. They are very LGBTQ friendly, to the point that the people of color feel like they are not important. So it's not just favoring the dominant culture over another. Sometimes microaggressions can even happen between and among marginalized identities. There are mental illness microaggressions that can happen. Invalidation, where you minimize someone's mental illness, or you symptomatize it. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. Where you, I can't get the word out, where you say, oh, you're just being dramatic again. Oh, is this your OCD coming out? Or you're patronizing. Just because someone has a mental illness that somehow they're not able to participate. There's the assumption of inferiority microaggression, that because they have a diagnosed mental illness, they must be of lower intelligence, they must be incompetent, or they have no control over themselves, right? We talk about fear of mental illness, shaming people with mental illness, and second-class citizen attitudes, where we don't want to make space for people who process differently than we do. Those are all microaggressions. Disability. I told you they exist in all ways here, right? Reducing the disability to an unfortunate fact. What happened to you? Oh, I couldn't deal with that. These are quotes from real people. People I know with disabilities who've had these things said to them. Deciding for others how bad their disability is or isn't. But you look so normal. I don't understand why you can't walk up these steps, why you can't do X, Y, Z. You look normal. Or just flat out discrimination. Assuming that that disability always means inability. If I'm in a wheelchair, I can't walk on my own two legs. It doesn't mean that I can't be the minister or play the piano or whatever. It doesn't always mean inability. And then there is belittling people who suffer from disability, who experience disability. Condescending responses. Inspiration porn. How many? I see some nodding and then I hear some what? Inspiration porn is like, what's that commercial? The Shriners commercial, right? With the little kid, with Jason and Caleb, I think are their names, where the kid says, and you'll get this adorable blanket, right? That's inspiration. Oh, you inspire me so much to do this work. Yeah. Do you know that that kid is now like 20-some years old and working? He's not a little kid anymore. Turning disability into minor everyday defects or using them as punchlines. I'm so OCD about my desk. How many of you have ever said that? Yeah, right? assuming the disability is something negative about the person. I have a congenitally narrow spine. I just do. It's not negative about me. It means sometimes my back hurts, sometimes I limp, but it's okay. It just is. Tiptoeing around the word disability, using blanket statements. Well, you know, disabled people, blah, blah, blah. Or projecting an us versus them mentality. And all of these are courtesy of Wendy Liu. But these are the types of microaggressions that you see. Trigger warning. We're going to watch some people identify or share microaggressions they've experienced. There's no sound. What does your hair look like today? She said as she pulled my hat off. Courtney, I never see you as a black girl. That gay kid. You are so Jack on Will and Grace. Actually, I'm Grace. Why do you sound white? You're so articulate. God, I hate that. Why haven't you found a husband yet? So, who's the man in the relationship? Dude, I totally forgot you were gay when we played ball earlier. Have you ever had real sex? You aren't queer, you have a boyfriend. You will never be a real woman. You're lucky to be black. It's so easy to get into college. Are you a man or a woman? When people think it's weird that I listen to Carrie Underwood. No, you're white. So when are you going to really transition? You're too pretty to be a lesbian. It's just a phase. You don't act gay. I am not your Lifetime movie. Oh my God, it's so brave of you to be out and proud right in front of the whole world. You inspire me. I am not required to reassure you. That joke you told was really inappropriate and sexist. Yeah, but you know I'm not sexist, right? It was only a joke. You know I didn't mean anything. I am not here for your entertainment. Come on, smile, sweetheart. It can't be that bad. What do you think? Have you said any of those things? Have you been on the receiving end of any of those things? Have you ever been in a space where someone else experienced those things? Did you laugh? Did you think, oh, it's just so-and-so. Oh, they didn't mean it. You know how they are. Did you know what to do when you heard that happen? Did you do anything when you heard it happen? Okay.
You did really well on the skills checkoff today. I was pleasantly surprised.
Since I was a kid, I've always known I've wanted to do this.
Consider a time you've witnessed an interaction that left you feeling uncomfortable because it implied that someone or a group wasn't capable or expected to be successful. This interaction is called a microaggression. Microaggression is a term used to describe remarks or actions that imply negative associations and insults toward an individual or group. These are often directed at members of historically marginalized groups. People are often unaware that the impact of their words and actions can have such harmful consequences. This video is part 1 of a 2-part series designed to empower you to notice and interrupt microaggressions. Every microaggression students and staff experience adds to their load. One unintentional comment may seem insignificant, but these comments and experiences can get very heavy. By creating a better understanding of microaggressions and how to stop them, WTCS faculty, staff, and students will create a more inclusive and safer learning environment for all. So, how can you help address microaggression when you see it happening? When you notice microaggressions occurring, interrupt the situation. You could 1. Ask questions to get at any underlying assumptions.
Thanks. Why did that surprise you?
2. Acknowledge what happened to the person affected.
I heard that comment and it didn't feel right.
3. Be an active bystander and explain to the person saying or behaving in a harmful way why their actions had a negative impact, even if unintentional.
You did really well on the skills checkoff today. I knew you would.
Addressing microaggression is an ongoing process. You can start right where you are today. For additional resources or information on microaggressions, please contact the WTCS Office of Student Success.
We're going to watch part 2.
In video 1, we defined microaggression and provided 3 strategies for interrupting them when they come up. Ask questions to get at any underlying assumptions. Acknowledge what happened to the person affected. Be an active bystander and explain to the person saying or behaving in a harmful way why their actions had a negative impact, even if unintentional. Microaggressions can be subtle and occur despite our best intentions. How do we know if we are saying and doing things that are harmful to others? In this video, we offer reflection questions to help us examine our own participation in microaggressions. What was my intention? What assumptions are behind what I said or did? What was the impact?
Where are you from?
From right around here.
Yep, me too. But where are you really from?
Me? I was born and grew up here, in Wisconsin. The intention of this question might be to connect with someone new, but the underlying assumption is that this person doesn't look like they are from here, and the impact is they may feel othered or question if they belong. Microaggressions can invalidate or exotify someone's identity, or imply stereotypical expectations, even when intended to be complimentary. Have you heard or even said any of these common microaggressions? What might the intentions, assumptions, and impacts be of each? Wow, you're so articulate! I feel so OCD today. Don't make him angry, he's a veteran. I can't say your name, I'll just call you Jay. Can I touch your hair? You want me to say they, them, or theirs when you're clearly a woman? Do you need a translator? You'd be prettier if you smiled more. If you're unsure why some of these statements can be considered microaggressions, use this as an opportunity to self-educate. What other microaggressions have you witnessed, experienced, or participated in? Noticing and addressing microaggressions is an ongoing process. By using these strategies and reflection questions, we can create a more inclusive environment for everyone. For additional resources or information on microaggressions, watch
Yay. So, audience participation time. And we can write these down. What microaggressions have you experienced? So many of you have experienced these things. They have. I mean, really, I could stand here and tell you for hours how many of them I have experienced. And what's interesting about them is I had the combination of the fat black thing happen before I had my second back surgery. I was meeting with a neuromuscular rehabilitation person. I knew that my spine was really kind of jacked up, and I needed to go to this guy. And he made some assumptions about me based on the fact that, for ease, I had braids, not my locks, I had braids. And I looked like I was in this body, and I was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt because I couldn't bend over, I couldn't zip, I couldn't do anything. And he said to me, if you would eat less fried chicken. And I said, excuse me? And I thought, okay, I'm gonna let that one slide. And then he asked me where my pain was. And I said, I kind of reached around, and I'm like, well, it's right here. And he said, well, right here doesn't tell me anything. I need to know in medical terms. So I said, well, if you'd really like to know, I just had an open decompression at L4, L5, L5, S1. And the look on his face was, how do you know that? And I thought about all of the people who would come into that office and not be able to talk to him. I remembered the doctor who told me she was an elderly woman, lonely and looking for attention, when he told her she was experiencing vaginal bleeding at 68 years old. And it turned out she had a baseball-sized tumor. So I took it upon myself that day to explain something to him that you cannot assume by looking at someone. And I really let him have it. Nicely, calmly, but I realized that if I didn't do it, I was complicit in that continuing pattern of behavior. That he would do that to the next patient who came in who might not be able to speak up for themselves. So sometimes when we think about the impact of these microaggressions, it's like, yeah, that's really annoying, I'll let it slide. And other times you can't. Because how do they make you feel? Tired. I get so tired sometimes. I've written a sermon on what it's like to be a black UU, and maybe someday I'll share it with you all. But how you just get tired, how it can make you feel dehumanized. You feel less than, you feel lonely. I think about coming into UU spaces, and sometimes I'm the only black person in the space, and it gets a little lonely sometimes. You can feel frustrated. You can feel unwanted when you are the recipient of microaggressions, whatever they are. You feel distrustful. That's one that I had to struggle with for a long time, feeling distrustful. Hurt, humiliated. The day that I walked into the courtroom in Boston for a corporate tax trial, and the 3 white attorneys at the other side of the table told me what they wanted in their coffee, not realizing I was opposing counsel. I needed to win that one. And I did. Anxious. It can make you feel scared. Am I safe here? I've had so many of you ask me if I'm going out to protest with you. Am I going out on April 5th with you? No, I'm not going. I didn't go to the Tesla protest. I don't go to a lot of protests because this body's not safe when I go out there. I have to worry about whether I will be arrested, and if I am, what will happen to me. I had a white colleague say to me, I'll be there, and my privilege will protect you, is what he said. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I'll see you when you get back. It can make you feel scared, stressed, bitter, defeated, unworthy, sad, angry, and traumatized. The trauma's real. It's something that we carry in our bones, generation after generation after generation. So when folks tell me, civil rights time is past, you have equal rights now. Come on, for real? It's just changed. It's still there. Are women completely equal in our society? No. Why would you think that people of color are? So there's a real impact that this has. This was a sign, I don't remember where I saw this, but sometimes it's worse when nice people hurt you unintentionally. They didn't mean to cut you, but you are still bleeding and you feel bad for being angry. It's worse when microaggressions happen to me in UU spaces. Because I'm like, wait a minute, aren't you the love people? If I can't be safe here, what hope do I have out there, right? Microaggressions are like 1,000 tiny paper cuts. There's one this week, there's one over there, there's one from this person, and before you know it, your hands are cut everywhere and bleeding. An individual paper cut is not enough to cause you to lose liters and liters of blood, but it's annoying and it hurts. Imagine experiencing them all day, every day. The ones that I can talk about, race, because that's the obvious one for me. How many times have I walked into stores and had people follow me around? Even now? When I was building my brand new house outside of Denver and I got stopped by the police and asked why I was in that neighborhood, and I had to show them my bill of sale because I hadn't changed my license yet. I was just going to check on construction. Or the time that I went shopping in an exclusive store out in Cincinnati and was told we don't have layaway. Layaway. Yeah. Or the time I pulled over because I had just started a ministry in a particular city and I got lost. You know, you learn how to go from your home to the grocery store, your home to the church. But then comes that day when you want to figure out how to go from the church to the grocery store. And I thought I could do it without using Google Maps. So I pulled over to kind of get myself together and figure out where I was, and the cop pulled up and followed me until I got to where I was going. These are things that have happened to me recently. Recently. I was having dinner with two other ministers, both of whom are nationally known Unitarian Universalist ministers. You'd know who they are right away. We are 3 black women, and we were ignored in a restaurant. When I went to Tulsa just last month, I was with the Justice Minister of the All Souls Church. I was with a famous religious educator. We sat down to have dinner and we were promptly ignored because 2 of us are black. And our host, who was the All Souls minister, was like, I've never experienced this here. But with us there, we got the worst table in the place and they ignored us. So it happens and it makes you feel all those things over and over and over again, and all you can say is, ouch. Over and over again, ouch. And the worst part is the silence. When people see it happening and don't say anything. I I usually say something. If I see something happen to another person, well, you all know this because I've probably done it to you. I've asked, what do you mean? Yeah. If I've asked you something like that, it's probably because you've said something and I want you to reflect on it. Apologizing to the target afterward only adds insult to injury. If we're in a space and you hear someone disrespect me, microaggress against me, and you don't say anything in the time in that space, but next week you say, you know, that thing that Mandy said to you, I'm really sorry. That adds insult to injury because you waited that long. The worst response is asking the target to fix the problem. And this is where it gets complicated being the minister, right? If you've ever wondered why the average tenure of a minister of color in Unitarian Universalism is much shorter than white ministers, this is why. Because we get tired. We're often asked to do the work, to teach us, to educate us. And for some of us, that is really, really hard. Well, it's hard for all of us, really. But for some, it's too much. You heard me talk about my mom saying in life, all you have to do is stay black and die. Everything else is prices and choices. For some, the price you pay for the choice to stay is too high, so you leave. So as we're in this space, it's like you can't ask the person who's always being cut and always being hurt to fix it. And this applies to all of those things. So if we go back to the picture we saw, the image of the young woman being excluded from the group of men, asking her to be the one to explain to the men why it's not right. That's what this is about. Asking the person with ADHD or OCD to explain to the other people why that thing that they've done is not acceptable. This is different from saying ouch, because the ouch is in the moment. But you don't want to expect that person to have to be the one to do the educating. It's tiring. You want people to educate themselves. So what I ask is that folks try to move from reaction to resistance. Right? From reacting and being like, oh yeah, this thing happened, to let's resist it. What can we do to interrupt these things, to stop them from happening? Instead of trying to figure out how do we deal with them, what if we could just stop them in the first place? Educating them, helping people understand why it's not good, and then maybe they'll change. So here's some tools. Inquire. What do you mean? Redirect. So if somebody's talking about your Jewishness, not just flat out like, oh yeah, you see that cool window over there? But, move the discussion because what's being discussed isn't appropriate. Reframe it. Oh, are you really wondering how long I've lived in the state? Is that what you're asking when you say, where am I from? Paraphrase, restate what they've said. Wait a minute, let me see, what's a good one there? Are you asking me X, or you think that because I'm black, I can't have multiple degrees? Ask the question. Use I statements and preference statements. And I'm not picking on somebody, but I did have to say to someone in this room, I prefer to be called Reverend Connie.
That was me.
Thank you, John. Okay, John. But yeah, I prefer that. And it wasn't, what's wrong with you? It's using the I statement. Or, I'm uncomfortable with the way you are treating Jan. I'm uncomfortable with that thing you just said. Not, Judy, you're a racist. I'm uncomfortable with what you just said. Employ strategic questioning to get to it. And for those of us who have been trial lawyers, that might be fun. Take your cues from the target. If somebody says something absolutely absurd and racist and you're standing there, if I decide that I'm not going to engage and I shut it down or ignore it, this is not the time for you to go, oh, Reverend Connie, how can you let them do that? Like, take your cues from the person who's been hurt. Focus on the impact of what was said, not the person's intent. I can't tell you how many times I hear, but so-and-so is such a good person. They've been a member here for 40 years. Okay. They've been a member for 40 years. It doesn't mean that they can't still behave inappropriately in the moment. Two things can be true. Don't attack the speaker. What's the matter with you? Why can't you be? We got to get rid of you right now. Like, blah, blah, blah. No. If the goal is to educate one another in love, can I ask you why you said that thing? I found it hurtful. Have the conversation, not get out right now. And take care of the target. Had a situation when I was settled minister in Cincinnati where we invited in a guest speaker who was a colleague of mine who was I think she was like a state attorney general somewhere else before ministry. So my age, had a career, came in and spoke, and afterward, a person who had been a member of the congregation for many, many years, who was very, very wealthy, who was a top donor in the congregation, came up to my friend and said, "You're so articulate for a black woman." And also talked about, you're not like the other single mothers, because this person had shared stories of raising their child as a single mother. And because she's a minister and nicer than I am, she handled it very well. But what upset me was that no one in the congregation went to take care of her. That they all went straight to the defense of the person who made the comments, right? Another example. A group of men in the congregation, older men, were sitting at a table in the fellowship hour, and one was singing Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo with the original words. And said, remember when we used to be able to say that? We can't say that now. And there was a black visitor who happened to hear this. And everybody went to the man and said, you can't say that. But my first reaction was to go to the target, to the person who'd experienced that. Take care of them. They're the one who's been hurt. So, what do you say? Ouch! Those words are really hurtful. I don't know what you meant by that remark. Could you explain? I know that comment made me really uncomfortable. Are you okay, Sam? I'm sure you didn't mean to cause harm, but I need you to know that your words are problematic. The target will decide how they respond. I don't often tell this story, but I will. Many of you know that I worked for Time Warner Corporation for many years as a lawyer at the executive level. One day, we were sitting in the executive boardroom, the general counsel and the treasurer, like corporate officers, we were just having fun, and someone thought it would be appropriate to make a joke about the sexual prowess of black men. And I excused myself from the room, because I was stunned, absolutely stunned. And I walked back into my beautiful office on the top floor with its view of Mount Evans and all of this stuff, and I'm like, you could let it go, but I can't. So I asked, what was that about? Oh, you know, we didn't mean you. We love you. You've been here for 15 years. Okay. I went home and I looked at photographs of my family, and I realized that that joke could have been about my father, my brothers, or my nephews. And I resigned. I left it, walked away from it. It was one of the most difficult things I've had to do, and it was the most correct thing I've ever done. You have to understand that these microaggressions, these little comments, these little things we do really, really affect folks in awful ways. They can. So I'm going to skip this one. There we go. Examples of microaggressions. You have a mental disability, you feel normal. The limited representation of my race in your classroom does not make me the voice of all black people. I have a cousin like you. How? So we're going to do some role play. And you can decide how you want to break yourselves up. Or if somebody's really feeling bold, you can come up and act it out in front of us. But I'm thinking you probably want to do this together. Here's our role play. So you need 3 people in each group. Ted, Sam, and Ray. Ted and Sam are Sunday morning greeters in the congregation. Of your congregation's 100 members, only one person, Joe, is black. One Sunday, while Ted and Sam are at the door, Ray, a black person, enters the building. Ted says to Ray, "Hi, did Joe invite you here today?" Good thinking. You ready for another one? Okay. 3 roles again. Sal is the white member who's been here for 40 years. Aaron is a white young adult interested in joining. Ollie is a white member of the congregation who's on the social justice team. The 3 of you are part of a group conversation about the church. Ollie is telling Aaron about the work of the church, whose members are 95% white, the work that it does in its predominantly black neighborhood. Sal says, yes, we want to help them, but we have to be careful about bringing in a lot of people from this neighborhood. We want to keep up the integrity of our traditions. And that's real. That one happened in a congregation I served. Is it real? I mean, talk about it. Is that really a microaggression? Maybe a macro. And how would you respond if you were in that conversation? How would you respond? Knowing that this is a real situation, and I will tell you how it ended up. Exactly. All of the above. So there's all these things going on here. And what were the microaggressions? Yeah, there was one about youth and young people and dismissing newcomers to the congregation in favor of those who have been here forever. There is the implication that the people in the neighborhood are somehow not desirable because the neighborhood is black. There's the whole power thing about tenure of membership going on. All of the above. And what did they end up doing? Nothing. They called themselves open to the community, but they sat inside the doors and waited for the people to come to them, and were surprised when no one came to them. Right? So sometimes being welcoming doesn't necessarily just mean the doors are open, we're in here, come in. Sometimes it means going out and engaging. And that's the part that was missing. But what shows up here that is real is fear of change and fear of losing what is sacred to you. For a majority of our folks who have been in congregations for 30, 40 years, they will tell you about something that happened a long time ago every time, right? Because that's their experience. That's the thing that they are loving the most. And they don't want to lose it because it's precious to them. So yes, you want to be compassionate because you have to understand that, the world is changing. And how do we hold this person through change and at the same time live into our values of what Unitarian Universalism is? That it is an evolving faith. It's never been static, ever, ever, ever. So use Article 2 as the example. All of the people who were stuck with the principles, we can't change, we can't give up the principles. Those principles were not there before. They weren't there before, right? Before 1961, there were no principles, period, in Unitarianism. There weren't any. And they're not the same principles that the new Unitarian Universalism adopted in 1961. They're not. We change. It's almost like the person who still has their VHS tapes. Or Betamax, right? Right? It's like, I'm not changing. This is the best technology. I'm sorry, but the technology is changing. It doesn't mean you can't still love them, but the rest of the world is not going to revolve around you and your VHS tapes. Because now we are streaming, we are doing other things. We love you, and the tools have changed. Do I see this one at River Road? Yeah. Yeah. Hang on one second. I do see this one at River Road. And the one that I hear most often is when folks talk about like-minded individuals. What does that mean? People who think just like me. I don't want any of those darn new thinkers coming in here, bringing their outside influences, right? It's one thing to say you want people who share your values, but not like-minded individuals. Because you all do express your Unitarian Universalism differently. We all do. We have different theologies. We are Christian UUs, and Jewish UUs, and Buddhist UUs, and atheist UUs. We are all of the above, and we're still UUs. But we can't say one way of doing it is the right way, because it's not. Question? Very, very hard. At the congregation where this thing happened, there was a member, a couple who they'd been members for years and years. He owned a business and they lived in the right part of town. And he said to me one day, he said, you know, I kept it a secret for a long time that I only have a high school education. Because I didn't want them to think less of me. And he only felt validated when he was able to live in this particular neighborhood. That's real. That's real. Or when you're in meetings and folks are like, well, I just came back from my 1-month vacation in such and such a place, and I'm going here and I'm going here. And it's wonderful that people can travel and experience the world. And remember that not everybody can do that. You've just taken 3 months and traveled someplace, and the other person might be trying to figure out how to pay for that really expensive medicine that their child needs or their spouse needs. They might be trying to figure out what they're going to do if they lose their job because they don't have retirement money. Or when we're talking about the pledge drive and we say, well, it's just an extra $100. Sometimes that just an extra $100 is the difference between, you know, being okay and being on the edge. So we have to be more mindful, especially in this congregation where I know you have wealth, you have privilege, but I see it a lot and I'm like, just, you know, it would help to make other people feel more welcome when they come in. Okay, any other questions? And then I want to address the question that's on the board. So the question on the board is, what do you do if you're an employer and you experience the microaggression? We talked about following the target's lead. What happens if you're the supervisor and you see this happen at work? In that instance, you can't follow the target's lead. You may not like you may say, if it happened between you two, I may say, can I talk to you over here, John? And then I'm your manager and say, what you just did totally violates our employment policies. You can't do that, right? So it's addressing it as an employer, but it's also, I'd be like, are you okay? Okay, good. John, let's go. Let's go have a conversation over here. So sometimes you can't just, if they say, if the person who's the target says, oh, it really wasn't that big a deal, but it flat out violates your policy, you still have to go have a talk with John. That's real. Yeah. I hate when that stuff happens, and it happens. I had that happen in a meeting here at River Road. We were in a committee meeting, and well, it was a larger meeting, and I had written something and then said it out loud in the meeting, and another person said it as if it was a brand new idea, and kind of like, why didn't I think of it? And I remember just sitting there on the Zoom like, isn't that what I just said? But I guess I didn't say it right. Right? And I know this person wasn't being malicious, but when it happened the second time, I was like, oh, I see how this goes. Right? So, and it's not malicious. Impact over intention. Would I doubt that this person has the best interests of the River Road Unitarian Universalist congregation in their heart? Absolutely not. But I feel that the way that meeting went, I'm like, oh, I get it. Another little paper cut, right? Another little paper cut. I'm tougher than maybe some are, but still, it doesn't mean that it doesn't bother me after a while. And it doesn't mean that your targets, whatever they are, whether it's the young person, the disabled person, whatever it is, it doesn't mean that that person isn't going to need to go someplace else to get support and love and encouragement. And you can't take that personally. What's the matter with us? Why you have to go outside? Why are they always caucusing? That's a question that comes up a lot, because sometimes you just need to go where it's safe. That's why I hope you are all here, is so that you have some education, and now you have ways that you can interrupt and help others understand. Because 9 times out of 10, the people who really need to be here aren't here. You're not off the hook if I laugh.
Yeah.
If it's still really, really painful. There have been times when I've been in UU spaces where I'm just absolutely dumbfounded and I don't know what else to do but laugh. I mean, and it's like I can't believe those words just came out of your mouth. It's not, ha, that's funny, but it doesn't let the person off the hook. And that's when we hope that, other people will step in and be like, look, she's more graceful than I am, but let me tell you, can I ask you about what you just said? Yeah. So last year, there was a resolution, a business resolution about honoring transgender people. And some of the comments from UUs were like nothing I've ever seen. I mean, like these people, and they don't have to be that way, and I mean, it was really, really bad. It was bad. And it's not the first time, right? We went through this, I mean, historically, if you really want to think about it, we went through this in 1860 when William Jackson, a Baptist minister, a black man, showed up at the meeting of the Unitarians and said, I would like to be a Unitarian minister and leave behind my Baptist faith. And they basically laughed at him and sent him home. Right? The comments then were, are you kidding? You can't be one of us. Or it's like the late 1960s with the empowerment controversy, where we thought, we're not going to spend money on black rights right now. We can't do that. The comments were horrible. Or the summer of our discontent, which was 2017, with the conversations about Black Lives Matter and Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism. The things people were saying were horrible, horrible. And I remember the following year, I was hosting an event for Meadville, Lombard, because I'm on the board, and at the time I was president of the Alum Association. And I was also on the Ministers Association board. And during the day, we had a minister give her 50-year message, because that's what they do. And she said really, really bad things about trans people and LGBTQ people entering the ministry. So much so that people had to leave the meetings and go have chaplain space. So we're all dealing with that. We get to the Meadville event in the afternoon, and another very old white minister starts talking about all these different people coming into our faith, right? Ugly, ugly comments, and what do? I mean, we want to say that's not who we are because we're good liberal white people, and it's who we are. It's who some of them are. I'm not a white person, right? I'm not in that we. But it is who some people are, even in Unitarian Universalism. And I hate it. I hate it for us because I think it is an exit strategy, right? If we can't get it together, you're going to be alone. If you can't change. If you really want to keep your like-mindedness all together and exclude all those people, that's okay. It's awful. And after all, we are a microcosm of the world. We are. We'd like to think that we're special, and we're not. And I wish I had a better answer. Yeah. So now where do we go? Where do we go now? We get to the last two slides. Things to remember. Build relationships with people. Don't make assumptions. Practice. Take cues from the target. Focus on the impact of the words. Don't attack the speaker, and try to take care of the target. If you hear somebody say something not okay, and you see the target crumple or cry or look like they want to cry or something, take care of them first. Yeah, I know so-and-so's been here for 40 years and blah, blah, blah. Take care of the person first. Wouldn't my doctors in the room, what is it, ABC, airway, breathing, circulation? There you go. You got to get to those important things first. Opening the front door is a little acronym. Observe. Describe what you're seeing, what you think is happening. Think. Say what you think about it. Feel. Express your feelings about the situation. And D, assert what you would like to happen. John, I think I just heard you suggest that people who are X can't do Y. That feels hurtful to me. I am uncomfortable with you saying that. Can you explain better what you mean? Can you help me understand what you're getting at? Okay. What can you do going forward from this point? Examine your own unconscious biases. Are you that person that crosses the street or clutches your bag a little tighter when the black man comes the other way or steps onto the elevator? Listen to other stories and concerns. Learn what it's like. Talk to a Daniel from the video this morning. Look at his life. He's just trying to parallel park and get a license. Learn about others' experiences. Educate yourself about the oppressions and views of other groups. What's it like to be a young person who walks into this congregation for the first time? We had the conflict discussion, and Owen said it really well when he explained, our voices weren't even taken into consideration. They, thank you. What does it mean to really be educated? Teach others about microaggressions. Say it to somebody when you be like, what you said, blah, 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 blah. Interrupt them when you experience them. When you see it happening, interrupt it. Don't just turn the other way. Silence is being complicit.